Go for it.
Well, how disappointing is that, Chris? Given the occasion and obviously great opposition, what did you make of it?
Yeah, more about the occasion based on the opposition. Like, each to their own, and celebrating those achievements is, in my mind, it actually doesn't change much at all. You'd like to play better, but you've heard me say for 15 years, Pete, that if you need a milestone to try, then you're not a true professional. Like we played a really good team, and they were sharp tonight, and we were the opposite. So it was if that's a pattern throughout your games, then you've got a problem, and you may not be a very good team. I don't think that's the case with us. It hasn't been a pattern. It was a bad game to have an off night against, because sometimes you can have a bit of an off night and get away with it, but you can't against the quality of that opposition. But didn't think it was a complete disaster. Like, the scoreboard got out of control. In a way, based on their efficiency, and they kicked for goal differently to the way they have in previous weeks, and we kicked a bit more like they have. Even at three-quarter time, when obviously we were well and truly up against it, the expected score was pretty tight. And yeah, it was just some uncharacteristic stuff that, again, if it's a pattern, then that compounded means you're a bad team. I don't think that's us. There was some stuff tonight. And it's not complicated. It's just the stuff that you all saw, like skill errors. Like, there's a little bit of method stuff, but so much of it was just execution. And so if that happens week after week after week, we'll have a problem. But this might be one that we'd put in the category of beaten by a better team on the night. By next week, chance to regroup. We're in pretty good shape.
I felt like they had more pressure coming in where you guys had 1 5 in a row. Do you feel like they came here wanting to prove a point as well?
Oh, I'm sure they did, and I'm sure they have a right to feel proud of themselves, and I thought they played really well. But again, I almost take offence to the idea that, if that were us, for example, then I wouldn't like the accusation that, you really steeled yourself for this one. What about the previous couple? Like, I didn't look at us and think, gee, that was we were off because of effort, or that we took the opposition easily. We were crystal clear on what they could be, and they played the way we expected. We just weren't good enough on the night to counter it.
How rattling was the start? Obviously, there was all the build-up. I know you say you don't need the motivation of big games or milestones, but so much build-up, there's the white T-shirts and everything, and then they just go bang, 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 bang.
Yeah, and, there's like 2 centre-bounce free kicks. We gifted them 1 goal with a really bad turnover, and then you're 4 goals down. So, yeah, I wouldn't reference the build-up so much as we needed to, start the game better, and we gifted them some opportunities that, I do believe in this bit, like when they're coming down with a bit of hope, and that gets validated early in the game. Okay, now you've got some work to do. We had the chance, I thought, early to put them under pressure, and for some reason we chose not to, or went for sort of more expansive options that hasn't been a part of our game in the last month or so. So again, so much of what we saw was kind of an outlier tonight. But again, there's always the 2 sides of the coin. There's that didn't look like us. But then the opposition played the game in a way that, and even when the scoreboard got the way it did, that made us change a little bit of the way we played, which invariably is good if it works for you, but it does give the opposition a chance the other way, and they certainly took those chances.
So you've been a very high rate of kick first out of intercepts and out of stoppages this year. Very low rates of handballs, similar to that again tonight. Can you maybe speak to some of the advantages of that approach, and maybe why you thought it didn't quite have the same success tonight? Yeah,
it was the conditions. It was quite slippery out there. It looked slippery for us. It didn't look as slippery for them. One of those nights. But in terms of the way we try to play, unfortunately, I don't think we've been in a presser too often. But I don't talk about our tactics that much, or the way we play. Other coaches do, but yeah, I prefer to keep those things a little bit more to myself. But is there something else you'd like to ask that I can actually answer?
Let's see how we go.
I'm trying to be polite, but...
No, that's fine. That's fine. I mostly ask questions in Canberra. You guys
Yeah.
don't come to Monaco much?
No.
Marks inside 50. You guys have
Yeah.
very widespread this year.
Yeah.
I think tonight you had 13 off 8 different players. How important has that spread been for you, particularly in the post-Hawkins era and just in the modern game in general?
Yeah, so we didn't quite give our forwards the chances that we would have liked. Even, I think statistically, the game, besides the scoreboard, a lot of the stats are actually pretty similar. It's not as if we weren't getting the ball forward. It wasn't as if we weren't getting the shots. And again, it sort of fits into the category of, that's unusual for him to miss or not make the distance. But to beat Brisbane, we certainly thought that we needed to give them different looks inside 50. But for one reason or another, sometimes it was a fumble, sometimes it was a missed kick. We just couldn't get them under enough pressure early on. And they really did back their defenders in. And they played well. Credit to them.
So you are a coach who puts some reference to the expected score concept. Could you tell us a bit about what you think of that? And
Yeah.
its limitations and strengths?
Only because it's so simple. Like I think sometimes the stats are a little misleading, but this one's objective. Like over the course of time, what's the average situation from a shot from that range? It gives you an idea. It's just a little bit deeper than, because sometimes scoring shots can be a bit misleading too. Sometimes there are a lot of rushed shots from angles, but I mean, off the top of my head, Morris kicked a snap from the boundary line. Pat had one 10 metres inside, which is like put down your glasses normally, missed it. Like that's sort of what it looked like to our observation. So to be clear, not so much that we think, if we kick straight, we would have won the game. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it wasn't a disaster. Sometimes you lose by a lot and you think we just got outplayed everywhere and we were never a chance. We thought we were getting enough chances to be competitive, but it just felt like one of those nights where I sort of said this to the players: what could go wrong did go wrong, and that happens. It happens to the best teams, and I don't know where we are in the comp now, but I think again, just moving forward, so sit back and think, okay, 10 and 5, go into the bye. We've got opportunity, so I don't think we'll be dwelling on this one for too long.
Sorry. One more question,
Yeah.
that's one more in general.
Yeah.
Just in general terms, can you tell us a bit of how you see the trade-off between +1 in defence versus allowing an opponent spare various options up at the ball sweeping, etc.?
Yeah, I think it's always an interesting one. Like some teams play very hard one-on-one, and other teams choose to drop off. So I think the too simplistic way of thinking about it is where's ours, where's theirs. Depends a little bit on the conditions. The answer is it does depend. And even in games like this, sometimes it changes, because you're 5 goals down.
Probably compared to your depth.
Yeah, look, it's a hard one because from our end, because we think that's been a real strength for us over the last 6 weeks or so. But yeah, they're if they're not the best, and they probably are, they're the deepest. Their first and second and third year guys are guns. Pick one, sort of makes a bit of sense. That shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, but it's not as if they're relying on them to be their number 1, 2 and 3 mids. They're behind a Brownlow medalist and another guy that might win it, just in their midfield. So yeah, they're going to be well served for a little while, I reckon.
Sam Conning tonight, you're going to be without him for the next little while. How do you see that backline mix? Because obviously with split subs and that all changes as well.
Yeah, and we're hoping to get Kolajasny back at some point, so he will help. Look, they've been good for us, those guys, and we do feel like we've got some flexibility. Like even in a bad loss, I thought Jack Henry was outstanding tonight, and he's had a really good season. Prefer to have De Koning in there, but it's not as if... We're not like some other teams who have lost. Or maybe early in the year we sort of lost all our defenders at once, and that is hard. There are some teams that, almost lost them all. That's hard. But when you lose one, I think we can cover for that.
How
But
do you-
looking forward to getting him back.
Sorry. How do you feel heading into the bye? You sort of alluded to it. Tonight's not a disaster in terms of where you're placed overall, where you get the chance now to reflect and look forward.
Yeah, I think, look, tonight's a disaster in the context of tonight. And I'm terrible at this, but I've got to try to practice what I preach a little bit and move on quickly. I think pretty easy to take a step back and say, okay, if you looked at this point of time 10 weeks ago and said, now, I wouldn't take 10 and 5. I want 15 and zip. But in the context of a really competitive season where a lot of teams are losing games, it's like, okay, I think the question is, does that position give you a chance? And I think that's emphatic yes. So clearly we'll need to play better than tonight, but we have been playing better. I'm confident tonight was a bit of a blip, as disappointing as it is.
Does College Adams minus surgery as well push his timeline back a little bit? Because obviously you expect him to come back in, but how long would you see that kind of playing out, or not too sure yet?
I have no idea what our club says in terms of the injury outlooks, mainly because I don't believe them. They get it wrong all the time. What are we saying?
Indefinite.
Indefinite, because we don't know.
Yesterday, so
Yeah.
in the next few days we'll know more.
Yeah. I was more referencing the fact that, 8 games to go, hopefully finals if you're good enough. That adds up to 3 months. We're confident that he'd be in the picture there. Thanks a lot.